Hi, T. Carlson here, and once again it's time for classic cinema. Today we're going to be taking a look at the classic 1941 film Sergeant York, which stars Gary Cooper as World War I hero Alvin C. York, who became one of the most decorated soldiers in American history. We're going to take a look at this release, do a quick unboxing. I'll share some opinions about the movie and let you know if I recommend this release or not. Nice close-up of the packaging with the vintage-style artwork. There's our spine text. This is part of the Warner Brothers Archive collection, if I didn't mention that earlier. There you got the back with the features, description of the film, quotations, legalese, credits. And inside the package, of course, pretty bare bones. We just get the disc. Now, for years and years, the only way to watch the film on home video on a more modern digital format was the DVD version. This, of course, features slightly different artwork. And there's the back of that. A lot of the art design and text is largely the same as the newer release. There is one issue where this release bests the newer one, and we'll get to that in a little bit. This one at least included an insert for TCM. There was no insert whatsoever with the new Blu-ray release, but anyway, we'll get on with the review. And like I said, I'll be referring back to the DVD for one important aspect later on. Yeah, in backwoods Tennessee, Alvin York is a regular troublemaker and drunkard, making life a living hell for his siblings and mother. He eventually manages to find religion and tries to win over the woman of his dreams, but when he finds religion and wants to be at peace with his fellow man, he's drafted into World War I, and his good friend Pastor Pyle, unfortunately, is not able to get him a deferment as a conscientious objector, so he ends up having to go into the military. Despite this, he ends up showing great prowess with a gun, largely because he was a hunter, and strikes up a good companionship with all of the men that he's been cast into the military with. Over time, he ends up facing adversity, rising above the odds, and even ends up taking over 100 German soldiers prisoner. All of this from a guy who was a peaceful Christian who wanted to be a conscientious objector. It's no surprise that he's largely revered as one of the great American war heroes of all time. And of course, Gary Cooper plays him expertly here. This is a fantastic film. It's a little on the long side, but that's mainly because the first act is a little longer so that we actually get to know Alvin York before he's cast off into war. The cast, in addition to Cooper, includes the likes of Walter Brennan as Pastor Pyle and June Lockhart as Alvin's younger sister. She, of course, would go on to be known as the mom on Lassie. It's a very nicely shot film. The backwoods Tennessee scenes are very convincing, and supposedly Alvin wouldn't sign off on the movie unless they were. Obviously, some things were a little fabricated for Hollywood, including the exact events that triggered York's conversion to Christianity. But there are some great performances here, and the World War I scenes are especially quite violent and gritty for their time. There certainly are some lighthearted moments in the movie as well, and it's a pretty powerful, dramatic tale. Some aspects show their age, but this is a fantastic film that over 80 years after its original release, the movie being released just as America was about to go into World War II, it holds up more than it doesn't, and it certainly stands the test of time. I'm happy to say this release from the Warner Archive collection looks very good. I mean, we've watched so many older prints of this movie that just haven't looked their best, but this print is practically free of damage. The black levels are pretty deep. You get a pretty nice variance in the lights and darks. I think this obviously would have looked better if it had been released on a 4K disc, whether native 4K or upscales. I think the HDR probably could have given it an extra little push in regards to those black levels. But as far as a Blu-ray disc release of a classic back catalog film goes, especially one this old, it doesn't get a whole lot better than this, so hats off to Warner for doing justice to Sergeant York. Now, for bonus features on here, it largely ports over what we had on the older release. These include a commentary, a making-of featurette entitled Sergeant York of God and Country, a classic cartoon entitled Porky's Preview, and yes, that's a Porky Pig cartoon, another vintage short, this one live action, called Lions for Sale, But there is one piece that's missing that you can only get on the older DVD, that being the documentary Gary Cooper, American Life, American Legend, which is hosted by Clint Eastwood and features a lot of classic clips from old Cooper films. I'm guessing there was probably a legal snafu that prevented that from being ported over due to Clint Eastwood hosting and or all of those old film clips and so forth. But in the end, I mean, there's no reason not to recommend the new Blu-ray, which looks absolutely fantastic and certainly does justice to a classic film. Are you a fan of the film Sergeant York? Do you think this is Gary Cooper's best performance? Comment down below and let me know what you think. Also, remember to subscribe to my channel for more content because I'm always posting new videos. And make sure you give this one a like if you found it helpful. I'm Taylor T. Carlson. See you next time.